Hello, everyone. How beautiful it is to with you today and to say happy Thanksgiving. Deep love, deep gratitude. Oh my heart just fills with joy just being aware of all of the gifts. And I'm absolutely loving seeing your face, seeing people that I have loved so much over so many years. How incredible it is to know that immense blessing. And uh, Judy Wallace, oh my God, we go back so long, all the way back to Walnut Creek. And sometimes the awareness of this deep love that continues to live us and last through our entire lives is just profound and beautiful and just blessing upon blessing. And so I'm so grateful and so thrilled. And so many things that I want to talk about today. But first of all, let me just go into the deep dive into gratitude. And in the email that I sent, I was just amazed when I listened to the Michael Meade call and he started talking about a Peruvian creation story and how much I love creation stories, and especially the one that I focus on. It's the whole structure of my book. And so it just thrills me to hear other people talking about it now and talking about creation, and even involution, even the descent of spirit is being spoken of more and more. And that used to be something hardly anyone talked about. And we were always sort of ahead of our time in those ways. But this Peruvian creation story that talks about a Mayan creation story, and it talks about the deep dives into gratitude. And the first level being kind of a surface level, just saying thank you to people and the ordinary kind of courtesies that we pay attention to and love having as part of our lives, and grow to expect that. And what I'm aware of is that in recent months and recent times, it has been just a bit dicey with so much polarity, so much separation. That's the word. So much feeling of separation. And I just, every time I experience that, I feel this deep yearning to go higher, to experience what's beyond that, to experience the all that is that I love this. Llewellyn Van Lee gave me this phrase, the dazzling darkness that includes both the darkness and the light, but it's at a vibrational field that's beyond love and above. And so it's fifth dimension and beyond. It's not third dimension where the polarities are so crazy and just continue to be so difficult. And it's not fourth dimension where we begin to get glimpses and we begin to even do strategic planning. A lot of integral is in the fourth dimension. A lot of the whole human rights, women's rights, all of the rights of different groups coming in that fifth dimension awareness or fourth dimension awareness. But then we do this monumental shift, this huge leap into the fifth dimension and beyond. And we are in realms that at first can be very, very confusing because we've never been there before. Humankind has never been there before. Mystics have written about it, but it's still rare. And the rareness of it makes it even something that we yearn for more and more and more. And yet we sense that it has this glory, from glory to glory. My good friend Mary Omwick, who's transitioned through the veils, in fact, she's coming into my awareness, tells me she's probably with us on the call today. She said, "Oh, Marj, you're always talking about from glory to glory." I love that we get those glimpses. I love that we perceive it, even when it's not quite visible to us. I love that the downloads come. I love that Spirit is constantly directing us. And so let's take a moment and just talk about the two deep dives of gratitude. The first surface level is a beautiful level, the good, the true, and the beautiful. It's where all the Hallmark cards come from, probably. and let's look at what Michael Meade drew to my attention. And I've sort of known this. I'm guessing you'll say, "Oh my God, I've sort of known that too." But Michael Meade talks about the second depth is the depth of chaos. Chaotic is what is called the transition of it into a greater level of order, but the chaos is there. And it's extremely, extremely important because it is absolutely essential in order for us to be able to make the monumental shift, for us to see the light in new levels, for us to recognize the vibration of consciousness that we are moving toward and will be living from, co-creating from, and getting a glimpse of a future that does not even exist. And yet, in vertical dimensions, that future is here, always, already. And my wonderful, wonderful teacher in ministerial school, Ed Rabel, used to say, "Jesus came back from the future." And so I'm asking you, all of the people that are on the call today, how many of you came back from the future? How many of you came here in order to be part of the purification of consciousness, in part of the elevation of consciousness, in part as part of the advanced tribe? I kind of love to compare it to what exists and as part of our history, Lewis and Clark exploring the Louisiana Territory. Louisiana has a resonance with my middle name. So it's a name that goes back 3 generations, not Louisiana, but different variations, goes back 3 generations to my mother, to my grandmother, and to beyond that. And so Lewis and Clark, they were commissioned by the president to explore a territory that had never been mapped. People were living there. The native tribes were all living there. They had lived there for centuries. And yet the territory itself had never been mapped. And so, commissioned by the president, Lewis and Clark said yes to the adventure of mapping the unexplored territory. They became guides to other people who were courageous enough to go into the wilderness that had never been explored, Now it's very interesting. They made a few mistakes along the way. They came up the Missouri River, and they thought that the river would go all of the way to the Pacific Ocean. They had no idea that it wouldn't, and yet, so they brought their preparations, and they had canoes. Well, those canoes had to be, what should we say? They played their role, and then that role dissolved. And so the canoes had to be left behind, and they had to get wagon trains, and that worked for a while. And then even that became difficult as they hit mountain passes, especially going into the Oregon territories. And at one point, Lewis and Clark actually developed relationships with the native populations, and they built partnering relationships where they were helpful to one another if they were not attacking each other. But it was sort of a dicey game. You threw the dice and you hoped it would come out the way you intended it. And it didn't always. And at one point in time, Lewis went one way and Clark went another way, and they took different teams into different routes. Does this sound sort of like what's happening in consciousness today? Different teams taking different routes, different people having their own passions and purpose, and yet they're all interrelated and part of a field of something that is so much greater, beyond anything we've lived or beyond anything we've ever experienced before. And so one of the things that I know as we go into these deep dives is that we have to go through our own chaotic experience. First, it starts with chaos. It may start with tears. It may start with all kinds of things that come up in our lives as sorrow or even loss. And we don't always understand it. It's not meant for us to understand. It's part of the journey that will be revealing itself as we go along. And it's not about understanding it with our human minds. In fact, if we get attached to understanding it with our human minds, we may actually go off track, because we'll be attached to the healing modalities potentially that are available on the levels of the human plane. And maybe, just maybe, we are being called to go beyond. We're being called to go into modalities that are not even yet perhaps understood. For example, love. Love in all of its dimensions, from our earliest childhood, taking our first baby steps, into our young childhood experiences, going into the beginnings of school. Do you remember the name of your first teacher? I do, Mrs. Hill. She was my teacher for 2 years in first grade and second grade. I even remember my third grade teacher and my fourth grade teacher. Do you remember? These are early imprints that come from gratitude, that come from amazing recognition of gifts of love. And then there were other imprints potentially also that were not always as easy. Into our 20s, and we've been doing this. We've been doing these deep dives on our book club, and some of you are in the book club, and I'm so grateful for the people that are. One of my intentions for 2022 is to offer a 9-month program where we can really go into some serious deep dives and do some serious scribing and record a spiritual biography, a sacred soul story in ways that will be a gift, not only for our own lives, but for others and potentially for generations to come. Part of a legacy. I still have my grandmother's diary. The pages are beginning to crumble from simply being old. That it's close to, I don't know, almost 200 years old now, and the paper is disintegrating even. And so not even journals last, but there will be forms that last. It will be called legacy. And you will have the chance to write your own legacy, potentially. How do you want your life to be remembered? Do you want it to be remembered by the horror stories? Or do you want it to be remembered by the love stories? Your life as a sacred love story. The choice is simple for me. My book is all about that. And I'm going to bring on a person. Oh, before I do that, I want to go to the three levels that I learned about or relearned about. I remembered from Michael Meade. First level, surface level, second level, chaos, going into the chaotic process. And the third level is this realm of the dazzling darkness that brings all of it together, where we see through the eyes of love. And it heals everything. We find within ourselves the great healer, the healer that Jesus taught, the healer that many different traditions have taught, the healer that is beyond the opposites, and the healer that knows love and oneness. And so I had a telephone call this morning early with a person I want to bring online, and I'm looking for you. Where are you? I thought I saw you a little while ago. Maybe Kathy Hill has disappeared. She might have lost her connection. She said she would be calling in from a parking lot. So help me watch out for her, Fabienne. And we'll simply go on and talk about some of the other pieces of the story. So one of the things that came in to my email today was from one of my early coaches. And I've had multiple levels of coaches from a lot of different kinds of traditions and focus. I happened into them as a result of by accident. The first coaches that I had, I found as a result of seeing an email when I was out in the desert during the time of after Ron's passing, and I was in immense grief, and an email came in about something related to the web, and I thought, oh, I could do that. Have you had any of those experiences? Oh, I could do that. And in that experience, I signed up for a coaching program that was called Info Renegades. Well, the renegade part of it, I sort of related to. I've been a bit of a renegade for my entire life. And that's always felt rather comfortable to me. And so, but then another one showed up, and it's interesting how all of these happen. Sometimes through, I think Spirit uses my inbox to draw attention to the things that Spirit wants me be aware of and pay attention to. And so the next sort of attention getting moment was with someone who mentioned, and I usually tune into free calls and then decide whether that's interesting to me. This person on the very first free call that I tuned into mentioned that he had attended several events with David Hawkins, and that David Hawkins, and knowing about his work, Power versus Force especially, had changed his life. I've never heard him mention it since that call. But how was it that that was the call that dropped into my inbox that I first tuned into? And I signed up and I went to some intensives, an intensive that he did in San Diego, and got involved in some of his online courses. His name's Christian Michelson. And he actually, I think he lives in Costa Rica now, Jen. Used to live in San Diego. But I got this amazing email from him this morning, and it said, "This Thanksgiving, I hope you take time to cherish what you have and tell the people you care about how much you love them." So he had just started out, "Hey, Marge." I find my mindset from being in my early 80s kicks in, and hey is not something I relate to a lot. I relate to dear or dearest or beloved, but it's a different world now. And so one of the things that Christian said in this email that touched me deeply, there were a picture of his 3 daughters and him on the front page of it. And he said, we often get super excited and focused on our mission to help others and to reach our biggest goals. And it can be so easy to forget that we have already reached so many incredible goals, and that we already have so much to be thankful for. So I'd like to have you get a piece of paper out and have it in front of you. And when things come into your mind that fall into those categories, be willing to write them down. Be willing to let them be part of your gratitude list, your Thanksgiving list. You may want to get in touch with some of those people later on today or even tomorrow. And Christian went on to say, if you had asked me 20 years ago whether I would have the blessings this big in my life, I probably could not have imagined it. And so I want you to go back 20 years in your own life. That would take us back to 2000. And he said, now every morning that I wake up, my 3 girls are the first thing I think about, and they're the last thing I think about before I go to bed at night. I didn't even have them 20 years ago. And reflecting on this today really made me think of all of the other things that I'm really thankful for. Being able to pursue your deepest passion, for example. Oh my God, that just landed right in my heart. I went through a huge surprise this week of having the website for Living Loving Legacy hacked. And oh my God, they did a great job of it. And it was horrible. And I spent 2 days on the phone with the web host getting it worked on. And now it's all protected and it's mostly back. And I have to spend some more time working on it, probably after Thanksgiving. But, you know, I was really anxious to get it up in a pretty good way because I was going to be on a call and I was going to be interviewed on that call about Called by Love. And it was about some coaches that I just am totally admiring. They have been the people who created the websites and developed the web presence for people like Jack Cornfield, who was my first meditation teacher. Thomas Hubel, that I've taken a lot of courses from. And I thought, oh my God, these are people who understand the language that I speak. And one of the problems I've had is that no one in the coaching world that I've found so far totally understands the language that I speak and knows how to build the platforms for it. And so I was going to be interviewed for about 10 minutes on one of their calls, and I wanted our website up, and then it gets hacked. And I wrote them a PS to the short introduction I wrote for them. And I said, what all of this has done for me, this hacking, has taken me into a fierce love. I fiercely went into that love that wanted that website restored so I could be on this call this morning and have it working. I hadn't cared so much about that website in years. And it took me right back to that fierce love. So what are some of the things that have taken you back to fierce love that showed up as tragedy or surprise or insanity, things that you didn't want in your life, perhaps, and it happened anyway? That's that deep dive into gratitude, to where all of a sudden the things that are part of future time that you don't even know about totally yet come forefront, and you are passionately alive with it again in new ways and deeper levels. And so that happened for me just this week, coming out of a website being hacked. A whole new awareness of gratitude and having the ability, as a result of things like the World Wide Web, to pursue this deep, deep passion within me. And Jen, I'm looking at you, and you're in Costa Rica. How is it that we can connect with people all around the world? And Jen found me originally when I was on Adyashante's worldwide broadcast. And this is like years ago. And you had never introduced yourself to me until now, until we did 100 Days of Prayer. And now we've got this amazing connection. And I'm absolutely loving it. So precious, so beautiful. So being able to access the resources that we have today, so deeply grateful. Not everyone in the world has the kind of gifts that we have in our lives. I am not worried about not having food on my table. I am not worried about not having a roof over my head. How blessed we are. And then one of the things that Christian said in this beautiful email I received today, and you, Marj, that's right. I'm super thankful for you. So I want to say to everyone on the call today, and you, Fabienne, and you, Jen, and you, Judy, and you, Cecilia, and you, Marla, and you, Marty, and you, Suzanne, and you, Kay, and you, Catherine, and you, Jan, and I know she was here originally. I'm not sure where she went to. She may not be able to get back in. Kathy, if not, we'll bring her on the next call. And I'm super thankful for you. And what Christian said, it really made me pause. You're the reason I write messages like this. And I think about that every time I write a message for Called by Love, every time I write an email to send you describing a theme, I write it for you. You come into my awareness. Often a specific person will come into my awareness. Sometimes the whole group. And I write it for you. So you are the reason that I create. Wow. How profound is that? You are the reason that my life has that meaning. Co-creating. It's about us. It's about this we space. You're the reason I do what I do. You're the reason I'm still passionate about life. And as I watch your lives blossoming, I see my own. Jen, come on while I drink something from my bottle of water. And talk about how that works for you.
Hi, everybody. I think what it brings to mind is something that we love to say at the full circle gatherings where, and I think it comes from the Iroquois Nation, or I'm not sure. I mean, I learned it in Girl Scouts, but I don't know. You whose day this is, make it beautiful. Take out the rainbow colors and make it beautiful. And I always think of that we space and the togetherness and the gratitude of that as the rainbow kaleidoscope tapestry of existence, where we're all contributing our unique expressions to blossom from and as the wholeness that is, and just how beautiful it is. It's kind of wondrous, really. Gratitude feels like wonder, really. Uh-oh, you're on mute.
What is on your list? 3, 4, 5 things, Jen.
Well, while you were talking and you were saying, the unexpected sort of curveball. This certainly was a year of that here, because my husband had a heart attack in April, and very unexpectedly, we didn't know he had heart disease, and we didn't know whether he would live. And it was right after we were here in Costa Rica last time, and we had just returned to Oregon. And so we were swimming in the ocean this morning and recalling, because tomorrow's his birthday on Thanksgiving, and just recalling the events of the last 6 months, and how we weren't sure we would ever be back here. We weren't sure if he would continue this current incarnation. Not a lot of stuff to be grateful for. His birthday on Thanksgiving this year. So that definitely comes to mind. Grandbabies, I've got some, and I've got some on the way. Love that. The ability, like you were saying, out of all the expressions here on the planet, this particular one doesn't have to search for food. I'm not running from bombs. I'm not sitting on the border somewhere trying to figure out where I belong. And the great gratitude to be able to meet on this kind of platform with like-hearted individuals, because we have the time and the privilege and the space for that, and to contemplate together, the source of reality. Wow.
Let me just take a minute and acknowledge Marty. Marty, can you come on before you leave? You just sent me a message that you have to leave for a doctor's appointment. I would absolutely love to have you come on and just acknowledge your gratitude. Hey, so good to see you, Marty.
Good to see you all. Happy Thanksgiving.
And do you have a minute to just...
Yeah, just 1 minute. I just want to tell everyone, I wish everyone a wonderful holiday, and we should all be practicing being thankful and being grateful, not just during the holiday, but every day of the year, and live in gratitude. And that's what I do. And because of you, Marj, and because of Unity of Tustin, I practice gratitude every single day of my life. And I want to thank you all for that, because you guys are my teachers, and I've been practicing it every day for the last 12 years since I've been associated with Unity of Tustin. So I just want to thank you all, and I'm sorry I have to leave early. I have to go for cancer treatments at UCLA Health in Irvine. I'm dealing with a 4th cancer that I'm dealing with now, and I appreciate your prayers and good wishes.
So
And
let's just take a moment right now. Let's take a moment right now, Marty, with everyone on this call, and simply invoke the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit. We simply say, come, Holy Spirit, move in and through Marty. Fill him with your presence, fill him with your power, fill him with your strength, fill him with your healing energy. Move in all of the ways, in your gentle ways, in your fierce ways. Fill him with healing energy and love. We just invoke that for you and in you, beloved Marty. I'm so grateful you came on the call today. Know that our love and our prayers are going with you, and know that that power, that strength is with you every single moment, and that this is a sacred journey, and that it is being directed by Spirit. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you all.
Love.
God bless you all.
Thank you, Marty, for sending me that direct message.
God bless you. You're welcome. God bless you all. Thank you.
Yes. You know, it's quite incredible. We never, ever know. We do not know what is happening in people's lives and how important it is for us to be simply open and aware. And Ed just showed up. Hi, Ed. Happy Thanksgiving. Incredible. Surprises, surprises. And so, what are you thankful for? That's the question. And practicing a regular gratitude absolutely fills our life with a richness, fills our life with that richness in ways that nothing else can. Until we really recognize that level of gratitude, our life goes into chaos because we're right on the surface of the first level of gratitude. We have to be able to see the love and the gratitude in all of the chaos, in all of the moments that are difficult. And Ed, I know you've done a few of those yourself. Plumbing issues. And so what are you thankful for today? And is there a specific person? And if there is, I would encourage you to reach out to them today or tomorrow or the next day and let them know how much you appreciate them and how grateful you are for them in your life. You know, it's one of the reasons I wanted to do the calls today was so that we could see each other's faces and just be present for a moment and say, I love you. I am so grateful that you have been part of my life. It's so important to me. You are so important to me. And I would love to just let anyone else. I asked Jen, and thank you, Jen, for filling in with me when I was getting a tickle in my throat. Cecilia?
Yeah, I'd like to share. Thank you. Hi, Marj. Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. And I'm just sitting with what you've shared so far, Marj, and starting back with, how in the last 20 years, how our lives have changed. And that's something I'm really grateful for. 20 years ago, I was realizing that I was in a marriage that I was going to be leaving. And through the course of it, a lot of things happened. And I've had some really serious health issues. And I'm coming out the other end of it all. And for one, that's one of the biggest things I'm grateful for is my health. For everything I've learned, I really grasped what you were sharing about the 3 levels of gratitude, the surface, the chaotic, and then the brilliance and the darkness, because I really feel like I'm in what I've heard termed a karmic return, like I'm coming back with gifts because, my journey's been really challenging. And so I just want to share yesterday, I got in the kitchen where I'm living and spent 6 hours making this special stuffing, handmade, that I hadn't made in over 20 years. And it was like my way of celebrating my return and my goodness and the goodness I see in everyone else. The things I'm grateful for, of course, are my children. My baby, Laura, she's 32. She was born to me on Thanksgiving in 1989. So yesterday, the 23rd, was her birthday. She was 32. And my other 2 children and my grandchildren. And more than anything, just for being able to learn the lessons and have gratitude for them, even when they're just really brutal, really hard, and really challenging. I'd also like to say hello to Jan Sandler. Jan, you were with us in the Four Elements ceremony. You were brought up many times, and it was great gratitude for all the years that you hosted us. And also, I know that Terry Patton passed away, and I just want to remember that brother. And I learned of him through you, Marj, and I was really sad at his passing, but what a brilliant light. And I just see that we're all here together, helping each other out and, kind of walking each other home. So I'm just really grateful to be on the call.
Were you on the call, Cecilia, when Terry came on?
I missed it. I didn't open that email soon enough, but I did find out the next day. So
go back and listen to the replay if you can. It is just absolutely incredible when he comes on the call, and we're on a gallery view. And so I was able to see him when he came on the call. And I thought, oh my God, Terry Patton. If I had tried to get through his gatekeepers, because they were being so protective, there was no way I could have connected with him.
Yeah.
And he comes on the call and he talks about his terminal diagnosis, and someone that's on the call that also had a terminal diagnosis connected with him, and they talked about what it means. And Terry was talking about the freedom that it gave him.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, Terry, I don't know whether you'll go through the veils first because of your terminal diagnosis, or whether I will, because I'm in my early 80s. So I'll just say, Terry, if you go through before I do, I want you to come back and help me from the other side on this work that you and I have been devoted to so passionately for 30 years. And he looked right into the camera and he said, you got it. Let's see, how did he held up his thumbs up? You got it. And then he verbalized it, you got it. And so we went back and we stopped the replay right at that moment, took a picture so that it will be forever my memory of Terry Patton is that you got it moment. And I still feel that from Bud, my son. I still feel it from Ron. I still feel their connection. I still feel their power. And my guess is Terry is with us right now, because anytime you mention someone's name, they immediately show up. So Cecilia is just wonderful. And thank you. I wanted to share, because you're talking about, there it is. I love it. You got it, Terry Patton. Manifesting from divine mind, the magic and miracles of the power of divine imagination. You know, Fabienne, we should send that to Caring Bridge, and we also should send it to Deborah, his beloved. And that is just such a fabulous picture. And so I'm thankful for Terry in my life. I've known him since 2004, and we've shared so many of these passions around consciousness. And so I want to go back, Cecilia, and remind you of something that is extremely important. You know, Jesus calls our shadow self, or our self that goes into all of our dramas or our difficulties, or the ones that goes through all of the sorrows and the tears and all of the stuff that it doesn't feel feels hard. And Jesus calls that self an actor, A-C-T-O-R. In other words, a person that plays a role. And in the Gospel of Matthew, and Richard Rohr is so good at this, he talks about how Jesus uses that word 15 times. Now, when it gets translated out of Aramaic into Greek, and Aramaic was the language that Jesus used, the word actor becomes hypocrite in Aramaic. Well, that's the ego. And the ego wants to keep us tied to acceptable levels of knowledge, to things that feels good. It doesn't want us to go down into our personal feelings of pain or trauma, or into our uncomfortable shadows. And yet the shadow includes all of these things about ourselves that are unconscious, the things we don't want to see, the things that we're not yet ready to see, and the things that we don't want others to see. And so we try to hide or deny, and most especially we try to hide that from ourselves even. And so Carl Jung dealt with this in a whole different way. And he makes it really clear that the unconscious is not bad, this shadow energy. In fact, part of it is golden. Part of it is the source of our highest good. It's a source of light that we don't yet know. And so it's our superhuman self also. It's our divine self also. We may think of it as a wild beast, and yet it is also angels residing in that same realm that we call the unconscious, that feels sometimes like a wilderness. So this energy, in the creation story, it starts on the very first day, before God invokes light. In the beginning, there was darkness and void on the face of the waters. And then the invocation comes, let there be light. And so this is such an important part of our awareness. And on the call yesterday that I did with Kylie and Richard, that is about conscious, I don't even like to use the word marketing. How do you get the message of consciousness out without using these tactics that I am so resistant to, high pressure kinds of stuff. And I can't do it. I just hit the wall. And so we're exploring unexplored territory as we go into this. And so all of this is so important for us to understand from the level of gratitude. So Cecilia, thank you so much for coming on today. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Can I share something else, Marj?
Sure.
When you were sharing about the Mayan creation story, there's a group of elders, native elders, that have come together, and they're called the Wisdom Weavers of the World. And they just had a huge gathering, and you can find it on YouTube. I guess it was November 21st, 22nd, 23rd. I'm not quite sure. I think it was last Thursday to Sunday, but it was all on Zoom. They usually do it in person, but there's a lot of wisdom that they share, a lot of joy, a lot of gratitude. And just this idea that we're all coming together from all walks of life to usher in this new time.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Cecilia. All right. And let's let somebody else come on who is willing to come on and talk about what you're grateful for. Raise your hand, Ed. I sort of thought that you might. I'm so delighted you're here. And let's see, am
I on now?
You are.
So you can hear me? Okay. Well, I'd like to share this with you. And I'm gonna kind of read, because this was kind of in my, not kind of, it is in my Christmas letter or my holiday letter. Okay, on Tuesday, October the 12th, I woke up to the big wow, the big golly, the my gosh. Columbus Day, the day they discovered me, October the 12th, 1941. Wow, I am the big, oh my gosh, the big 80 years. Wow, what a frightening realization, creating visions of a different sort. Oh well, another count my blessings moment, the divine order. A here and now, relish in the wonder of it all. Our earth is still spinning in its orbits, in its orbit, and our universe and my mind is still active. I am alive, living in a free society, had a privileged upbringing, many friends, wonderful relationships, joyful, nurturing children, and 4 grandbabies. How could I be more blessed? Happy holidays to one and all.
That is beautiful, Ed.
Yeah, turning 80 is frightening.
You know, I feel more alive now than I did in my late 70s, because I was dealing with some immense loss and things that I didn't understand and never thought would happen. And so I am grateful for where I am now in my life, just really grateful. And I can feel the energy of the future guiding me. It's like Jesus comes back from the future time is coming back and guiding. So it's amazing. So how's your house problems going?
Well, they were in here today. I had to evacuate for 3 hours, but they cleaned the air ducts today, and it's still in a mess. I've got to have a whole team come in and rebuild it from that major leak that I had from the upstairs toilet. It's no fun.
And, you know, it's all part of life. And
Sure.
when we can look at it that way,
Yeah.
that gives us joy. So I'm so glad to see you on the call today.
Yeah. Sorry I'm late, but you know, I had to let them get in and get out.
Well, I'm grateful for you in my life. We have known each other since 1972.
That's right. Yeah.
Over 50 years,
Yeah.
almost 50 years.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful memories. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
So let's see who else would like to share. Judy, come on, Judy, and let's see.
Okay.
I'm muted.
All right.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to share that this has been a wonderful year for me and spiritually, because first of all, I've got the spiritual support of Marj. I've also have the spiritual support of a number of other people through Heart Math and I'm doing a little bit of work on the Course in Miracles, doing a little reading of A Course of Love. I'm working with reading more of David Hawkins, being more present, feeling more of the feelings, trying to get more present. That's a big one for me, trying to be in the present and trying to be with silence more. And I find myself very happy. I'm going to be off this call pretty soon because I'm going to Portland today and I have to get ready. But I have to say that I'm just very thankful. Gratitude is amazing. I came up with a little prayer that sort of, to me, symbolizes the Lord's Prayer. It says, "Dear all that is that dwells within me, hallowed be thy presence. May I be aware of your presence always, and may I have compassion for all, for through you we are one. And that feels pretty right to me. Okay. I thank you all.
Beautiful. Thank you, Judy. That's wonderful. And you and I go way back. You were on the board of the church that Paul and I founded in Northern California.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful memories. So we met when I was the minister in Walnut Creek,
Right.
my very first ministry. So
And look where you are now. Wow, what amazing journey you're having and continue to have. And the thing about gratitude is amazing. And if you could say a few words about that dazzling darkness, I'd be very happy, but you don't have to, because you already said 3 things. It brings all together, heals everything, and is beyond opposites.
well, let me say a few words about that.
Okay.
I learned that phrase from Llewellyn Von Lee, who lives in Northern California, and an amazing, amazing mystic. He's written many books. He asked me to write an endorsement, which I did for the one on the divine feminine. The Golden Sufi Center is his website, and he used that phrase when he did an intensive at Unity in Tustin, the dazzling darkness, and I could feel it as he spoke the phrase, and I'd never heard it before. And I said, tell me more about that. Tell us more about that. And he just gazed in my eyes, just gazed. And he said,
we're just trying to get you scheduled.
Just a minute. He said, he didn't respond. I'm trying to remember exactly how that moment unfolded. And he didn't respond to my question. He just gazed. And then in the silence, just gazed around the room. And that was all that he said about it. What I know was that the gaze ignited deeper levels of it in anyone that was open to the receiving. And I certainly was. And ever since then, I've been getting new levels of awareness of what that means. And that's where the phrase dancing all of the colors of the rainbow comes in my book that I use so often. And, love in all of the colors of the rainbow, it shows up very differently. Right now, one of the most difficult realms for me to experience that love in all of the colors of the rainbow is in some of the dynamics that's going on in the polarity in this country. So I have to go deeper. And instead of blaming the people who I see as perpetrators of that, doesn't matter which side you're on. There's perpetrators on the other side and people to shame and blame. You've got to go beyond that. You have to go deeper and see how light is shining on the darkness. And no matter where people are in their journey, that light is the light of the beloved shining on the darkness, inviting you to see it through a different lens, inviting you to see it from higher points of perspective. In the 3rd dimension, you see things in dark and light. You see it as right and wrong, good and bad, and you shame and you blame. In the 4th dimension, you begin to understand things like human rights and women's rights and gay rights and all of the different realms of rights. And you begin to advocate for those realms and try to right the wrongs. That still holds a lot of energy of shame and blame. And so this takes it to a whole other level. It doesn't mean that the advocating shouldn't happen. It will happen by people who are called to that. I happen to be an advocate for something that's beyond that, and it's called love. It's called love in all of the colors of the rainbow. And it invites people to see love instead of to see hate. It invites people to see ways to heal it instead of ways to shame it. It invites people to understand at levels of the soul, and to understand that these are ways that spirit heals our lives, that the soul heals our lives, and that we're probably living some past life karma in many ways. And this country has a bit of that, actually quite a lot of that, because of our history with slavery. And so we're dealing with our own karma in many ways. So how do you deal with karma? You have to be able to see it from the other person's point of view. And one of my great stories about that is one that I occasionally have repeated back to me when I was trying to deal with raising a rebellious son. My son Bud, if I said right, he did left. If I said up, he did down. If I said do it, he refused. If I said don't do it, it was the first thing he wanted to do. And Ed is laughing or smiling because Ed knew me during those years, but was not an easy child to raise. And he was playing out some of the imprints from a difficult relationship that he had with his own father. Well, I went to a person that did past life readings because I wanted to understand my relationship with my son better. And so that person took me into a trance state. And it so happens that in the trance state, it was revealed that Bud had been my mother in a past life in France. And Bud, as my mother, was a very, very spiritual person, extremely spiritual, and adamant in her spirituality. And I was a difficult child. And as a teenager, we lived in Paris, I used to run away and work the left bank. That's sort of the red light district in France. So when Michael Ward and I went to France, to Paris one time, I said, I want to go to the left bank. I want to see what it looks like. So in that lifetime, I was the difficult child. He was the caring, loving, ultra-conservative, spiritual, religious mother that didn't know how to deal with the difficult child. So in this lifetime, we changed places. Isn't that fascinating? And when I found that out, all of a sudden, the things that used to upset me about Bud, I began to look at through his eyes and understand. And so unmute yourself, Judy, and see if you have anything else to say.
I thank you. I think I really feel that this year has been beautifully good, and I'm very grateful because of just some of the new ways of looking at things that I'm coming to understand more. And I believe that's happening to everyone on this call, or we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have come to this one on gratitude, because gratitude is so important. It's extremely important. In fact, that's why I think that I was so interested in that third level,
Yeah.
because I'm very grateful. I find that I say that quite a lot. I say I'm very happy, I'm very grateful, and I keep thinking, well, that's very nice. But that doesn't mean that I still don't get upset, still don't react to things, but I'm catching myself more, and I'm very happy that that's what I'm seeing. So I guess I'm talking about myself because that's the only thing I really know. And I'm very appreciative again for all that is.
So one of the things I'm doing now, I'm a passionate,
Yeah.
clearly a lifelong learner. I passionately learn and passionately want to learn more. And it's more of an exploration now. I'm not finding a lot of people I can learn from as teachers. I find a lot of people I can learn from as companions on the path. And I mean, everyone on this call, I consider, Jesus said, you call me teacher, I call you friend. That's where I am now.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the next master teacher.
Yeah.
I recognize that role in some ways the mantle has been passed to me. And yet everyone I talk with, I call friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I learn from every single one of them about how they dance the colors of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
And you're certainly one of those people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You helped found a church with me and Paul. I've stayed in your home. We've had all kinds of deep dialogues. And I learn from you in ways that are so beautiful and so wonderful. And I'm looking for more people who want to dance in that realm of learning, more people who want to be guides on the journey of Lewis and Clark with me. I'm willing to step into one of those lead roles, but I need other people to step into lead roles with me, be deep divers with me in the unmapped territory. That's what we're doing, is mapping unmapped territory. And I don't know if Kathy ever got online. I don't see her name yet, but I do see a Zoom user. I'm wondering if that could be Kathy, but
Is it? There she is. Do you see her picture?
oh, fabulous. I don't, so thank you.
I'm not sure it's her, but it says Zoom user. There's a picture of a lady that has sort of blonde hair.
So let's go see if that's
And I
Kathy.
have to leave. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Oh, that's Jan Sander. Oh, there. No, that's Pam. That wasn't Kathy. She may not have gotten back on. So, all right. Who else has Kay? Did you have a question, or
I don't have
what
a
you're grateful for, Kay?
but I have gratitude. So I will, do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm wondering where you disappeared to.
I see myself.
Oh, there you are. All right.
Okay.
I see, I am still learning. All of a sudden, now you're pinned. I just learned how to do that a month ago. Okay, Kay, go for it.
Well, I have many gratitudes. You were talking about a curveball leading into chaos and then leading out. I definitely had that experience that overtook years of my life. And in the beginning, it was dark, it was horrible, frightening. But in the end, it was so beautiful and so moving. And I have gratitude for the faith it gave me and for the new awareness I gained from it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm also very grateful for the fact that I was born in this country and that I have freedom and health and security and family. I'm very grateful for my friends, particularly the ones I meet at Unity that are like-minded. That's been very necessary in my life. So I am grateful for much.
Oh, and you have given me so much, Kay. It is just incredible. You've been part of Called by Love from the very beginning. And of course, when I was the minister at Unity, you were there for many, many years. But you came, you were my assistant in Called by Love for a long time. And in fact, it was the day that you got sick and said, I can't be here tomorrow, that Fabienne came on and stepped in. Absolutely. I looked around the room and I thought, oh my God, what will I do if Kay can't be here? And I looked around the room and Fabienne had emailed me, and she didn't, she wasn't living in Tustin then. She was in between places. And I thought, you know, she's a coach for senior leadership coach for Tony Robbins. If she can help Tony Robbins, she can do that for me. And I asked her and she said, of course. And, you know, now she's been executive director of Called by Love for 8 years. So
I forgot to mention, and you reminded me, I'm also extremely grateful for you. Your ministry came at a confusing time for me after all those experiences. And I can't tell you how happy I was to have found you, and that you, just listening to you and you leading me to all these books, I learned so much, and I was so lost trying to find my bearings, and you helped me immensely. And so I will always be grateful for you too.
Thank you, Kay. And you know, you have been a consistent donor to Called by Love, and I am so appreciative of that. And you know, in this season of giving, I would invite other people on the call today to consider a gift to Called by Love, because we exist because of your giving, and I just am so grateful that your gifts of love, Kay, have been part of what allows Called by Love to sustain itself. I mean, the expenses of the platforms and all of that kind of thing go on, you know, they're not free. So thank you so much. And Fabienne always writes such beautiful invitations to giving, and many of you have participated in that. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
So let's also mention Unity of Tustin. And Kay, you have been one of the people that has continued to stay there and help them through their chaotic times. And, you know, in the last 10 years since I stepped off the platform, my own choice, I wasn't in any way pressured to do that. It was my choice. I was feeling called by love, and I didn't know what that meant even, but I knew that it was time for me to step off the bricks and mortar platform. Well, you've stayed there and you've been part of both the Called by Love and Unity of Tustin, and you continue to work in the bookstore. You're one of their faithful volunteers. You have helped sustain them, and your gifts have also been helpful in sustaining the meditation gardens, which of course is dear to my heart. So thank you so much for that. This season of giving, year-end giving is a really, really beautiful, beautiful time. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I saw Fabienne's hand up. No, she just brought me in something. And Kathy sent a message. She says, forgive me, but it simply must not be the right timing. I'm in Delaware today and in an area I am not familiar with, and I can only surmise the connection bandwidth is not strong. I lost you on and off, simply not to be meant to be today. What a conundrum. So I'm going to at least write a few of the thoughts I keep near me when I think of what I'm grateful for. I am grateful I have these abilities. I am grateful for the ability to read. I am grateful for the ability to write. I am grateful for the ability to speak and hear and see. I am grateful to have a comprehension of the difference between love and fear. I am grateful I have some ability in the practice of discipline, and I am grateful I have discipline, yet not always on target with it. Discipline helps me in so many, many ways. Mostly, I appreciate the calmness it gives me when things are not necessarily going my way, such as the phone call today. I know the relax and breathe discipline and the all will be well feeling it gives me now. Again, I am so very sorry. God bless and love to you, Marj, Fabienne, and the entire group on the Called by Love. So everyone has heard her message from today, and you know, I just thinking she was going to be on the call, I went and looked at one of her emails, and she was coming to a retreat that Andrew and I were doing in 2017 in June. And this was the, oh, and here's another one of my gratitudes. I was so grateful. You were there, Kay. and it was my book launch. And she said, I'm so grateful for all of the extraordinary people that are called by love at Unity in Tustin. And I feel so blessed to be able to come out once again to the West Coast. I'll fly in on Friday and stay with my cousin. She lives in Laguna Woods. And then there was a thing just below that email that was from Amazon. And she mentioned she had just written a book review for my book. And so I clicked on it and got this wonderful email that was about her book review. And it absolutely beautiful email about that she called Love Now. I am in the midst of this book and am experiencing profound, peaceful insights in and about my individual life's journey. Marj has created a safe, sacred, and intimate space between each and every word. The query she poses invites me inward toward the exploration of my own life as a sacred love story. And it goes on, it's much longer than that. But it was her endorsement for the book on Amazon. And I am so thrilled with how this is developing on the Zoom calls. And it was amazing when Kathy told me she had listened to Bruce Meyer's call on Zoom. I mean, that he had recorded our most recent book club call. And she said, I cried all of the way through it. So as I told Jennifer, for the first time, it really gave me the assurance that we can do this deep level of work on Zoom. And I want us to do some of that next year. And people who are really willing to do those deep dives to come through and be able to do it on their own through. And Kathy describes it this way: it's an invitation that invites me inward to my own yearning for my soul to reveal itself in its fullest expression. I am a happy learner because at this point, I can already tell this is a forever book. Marj allows me and the book to co-create and collaborate through scribing and listening and pondering, including this art of love. For me, this is my call to love. And it extends the good and the holy and the beautiful. Love back from my future. The book is a gift to give to yourself. And so I'm so grateful. I doubt that I ever write another book. If we write another book, notice I said we, it'll be your love stories that come into the co-creation of a book that is about how love shows up in all of the colors of the rainbow. And that's the course I'm thinking, I'm intending, intentions are good, to give next year in 2022, a 9-month course. So anyway, let's go back to gallery view and see if there's anyone else. There's only about 3 minutes left before we're out of time. Anyone else want to come online and say anything in closing? Well, what I want to share with you once again is how grateful I am for you in my life. And one of the things that I also read this morning that inspired me was a little inset in Craig Phillips' Happy Thanksgiving email. He's one of the spiritual ministry team members now, and I'm so thrilled. His specialty is meditation. And this brief inset that he did was from Eckhart Tolle. And the quote, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. And so many people today have acknowledged the good they already have in their lives. And also, you know, once we crack open those places that are part of the deep dives, that include ways that we perceive ourselves that may limit us, then what we do is we embody a living experience that's very active of hoping and dreaming and manifesting, that involves authenticity and connection to joy and to love and to a buoyancy that it's like the passion and the purpose and the destiny just continues to bubble forward. So I have one last bit of information to you. that I hope will be a bit of good news. Those of you who know that I occasionally, and Kay, you'll enjoy this, and I love that you are also a deep diver in astrology, but knowing that today was the worldwide call, I looked at what my little glimpse of astrology would have to say, and it says, have you been feeling a little intense lately? Well, with hacking of my computer website in the last couple of days, I'd have to give that a yes. Have you had to deal with a lot of extreme matters that took the wind out of you? If the answer is yes, it won't be all that surprising. But happily, the mood majorly lightens under today's stars. And so then it talks about how that's happening. And it's a transit where there is a number of oppositions and squares that left me a little burned out, and you probably also. And this energy changes today as Mercury waves goodbye to Scorpio and jumps into outgoing Sagittarius and the house of high ideals and visions and dreams. So I am so grateful to say yes, and I welcome that shift. So let's close with Liebestrom, Called by Love, Dream of Love.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next month.
Happy Thanksgiving, Marge, and everyone.
And let's unmute everyone. And if anyone wants to say happy Thanksgiving, we
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I love
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
I love you all so much.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for you.
Blessings, everyone.
I'm glad I got in on a little bit of it. Thank you. Good to be with everyone.
Bye
Happy
now.
Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.